Hello, invertebrate zoology. We're picking up and doing some more on the group phylum Arthropoda. And remember last time we were talking about general characteristics of all arthropods, these things with jointed legs, metameric bodies, that is, segmented bodies, and that hard exoskeleton. And so if we think about these general characteristics, in terms of what we see in all arthropods, and there's a lot of diversity, so a lot of traits aren't seen in all of them, but typically speaking, if you look at their circulatory system, it's open. And so you'll have a dorsally placed heart, it'll pump blood out to the body, and then it's released into the hematocele, basically into the open tissue spaces. It flows back into veins and then flows back, ultimately passes through lungs, back to the heart, and it enters the muscular pumping part of the heart through little holes called ostia, and then it pumps it back out to the body again. And so they do have an open circulatory system. By that I mean the blood isn't always contained within veins. It goes through the tissue spaces. So the taxonomy is complex. It's in flux, and so I want to make sure that you look at this. Also look at taxonomy for the test, because there I'll have it. If you have an older version of the text, you won't see things like these superclasses listed. And so there have been some changes in terms of how these things are listed. But this is the taxonomy we'll go with. If you take entomology, for example, you may see a slightly different taxonomy, and that's because at the highest levels, when we start talking about subphyla and classes, there's some uncertainties. But let's start with a group that are a bunch of losers, total evolutionary losers, the Trilobitomorpha. So they've got a rich fossil record, over 4,000 different species of these guys, and all of them went extinct 252 million years ago. MYA, that's million years ago. And so this is basically before the dinosaurs evolved. It's back in the end of the Paleozoic. Trilobites, as they're typically called, are dorsoventrally flattened. Here you're looking at one from the top down. It'd be normally probably sitting on the ocean floor 250 million years ago. And here it is from the ventral surface. And here you can see its arthropod affinities. This segmentation, each segment has a pair of legs. The legs actually have little branchlets coming off them. You can see it's got some of these antennae structure facing forward. It's got big compound eyes up here on the dorsal surface. You basically have three body segments: a head region, a middle region, and a tail region. And like I said, those appendages, if you look at them closely, all have two branches, a larger branch and a smaller branch. And so we call them biramous, which is a fancy word for two branches. And the trilobites were very ecologically diverse. They were very successful, but they went extinct. And they went extinct at what is the largest cataclysm ever to hit this planet. This Permian Triassic extinction event, it was at the end of the Permian era, right at the start of the Triassic, and that's not a coincidence that it happened there. These errors are defined by the fossils found in them, and you see a totally different fossil fauna in the Permian than you do in the Triassic. And so lots of dinosaurs and stuff here, but here you had things like trilobites. And at the end of the Permian, about 96% of all species died out. Marine forms were hit particularly hard, and no one is really sure what went wrong here. We know something horrible happened. It killed off tons of things. One likely explanation is massive volcanic activity, that there's something called flood basalts. Basalt is a volcanic rock. It's formed when a certain kind of lava solidifies or magma solidifies. And basically, flood basalts occur when huge cracks open on the Earth's surface that are tens or hundreds of miles long, and lava just flows out of them and spills over the landscape. And when it does this, it's not the lava that's killing things globally. What's killing things globally is the fact that this is releasing all kinds of nasty gases. Some of them are super acidic. Other of the gases are basically reduced, and so they suck up all the oxygen. And it looks like at the end of the Permian, the oceans became deoxygenated. And basically, with no oxygen, most macroscopic things died off. But we're still not really sure of this. But these flood basalts are found today all over Siberia, and you can basically time them, date them, to the end of the Permian when things went really badly. So, we're going to get off the trilobites without covering them too deeply because they're losers. There's none left. The Cheliceratta have a rich fossil fauna too, so there's lots of fossil chelicerates. But there's also chelicerates running around the planet right now. And so these guys are arthropods. If you look at this guy, you can see his jointed appendages. If you're an arthropod, you've got jointed appendages. And you can see that these guys, which include things like spiders, typically have two body sections. Sometimes they'll call these sections different things, but often I'll refer to them as a prosoma, the front part of the body, and the ophistosoma, the back part of the body. That root, ophisto, means back or behind. The first pair of appendages on a chelicerate, a member of the Chelicerata, are the chelicera, from which they get their name. And the chelicera are feeding appendages associated with the mouth. The mouth is right in here. And these nasty fangs are the chelicera. In some cases, chelicera are very fang-like. In other cases, they're actually pinchers. It depends on the group you're talking about. But these are the first appendages. And so one of the things that you see is they don't have antennae facing forward. In a lot of arthropods, the first set of appendages are antennae that face forward and help them sense the environment. These first appendages are mouth parts that we call chelicera. And the phylum Chelicerata, or excuse me, the subphylum Chelicerata, has three major classes. I'll talk about each of these in turn. We have members of all these in Florida. So first, the class Meristomata. These guys are the horseshoe crabs. So there's 4 species of horseshoe crabs in the world. All of them live in shallow marine environments. We call them horseshoe crabs, but they're really not crabs. Crabs are crustaceans. These are not crustaceans. They tend to burrow and dig on the ocean floor, often found in calmer waters, estuaries, and bayments. You can find them here in the Indian River Lagoon system. They're carnivores. They dig stuff up and then eat it. So this animal, this point back here is the last body segment. It's called the telson. Some people think it's actually a stinger. It's not. It can't sting you. It uses it to flip over. If it gets knocked upside down by waves or a person, it'll use this long structure to kind of arch its body up and tip itself back over. And so this is the back part of the body here. The anus would be right back here. And this is the front of the body. And it's got big compound eyes. It's got some smaller simple eyes as well. And you've got a big, heavy carapace totally covering this. The horseshoe crabs look totally different dorsally and ventrally. There's a lot more going on when you flip one over. And so this is what they look like when you flip them over. So again, this is the back of the animal. That's the telson. The anus is over here. Up here, this is the carapace covering the front of the body. And the first pair of appendages are the chelicera. And they're attached to the prosoma. Again, the prosoma is this front part of the body. And so on that, you've got, basically on the prosoma, you've got first the chelicera. Then you've got 5 pair of walking legs. And that's what these guys are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are big legs. When you flip them over, they'll wave all around. You've also got a pair of pedipalps, which help it feed. And the last pair of appendages are basically long structures that are used to clean the gills. And the gills are right back here. The gills are on the opistosoma, and they're big flattened appendages. And we call them book gills because each one looks almost like a page on a book. And so there'll be a series of these big flat appendages all laying against each other. But they can open up. They've got huge surface area to help in respiration. So I haven't ordered this too well. The first pair of appendages are the chelicera. And then actually the next pair are the pedipalps. And then you've got these walking legs. And the last pair of walking legs are modified for cleaning off those book gills, getting